In that sense, you become less and less effectual, because the only way we can improve our world is to face up to reality. Is to face up to the torment that is affecting this world of ours. Because we can always justify and rationalize our futility, can we not? By in effect saying, oh, you know, that's beyond us, it's too overwhelming. And then we don't analyze how it has come to be in order to motivate us toward the solutions, or toward at least addressing these problems. So when someone says to you, 3 billion out of the 6 billion people in this world are living on $2 or $1 a day, is that too abstract? Well, then somebody says, well, you know, the 350 richest people in the world have wealth equivalent to the combined wealth of the bottom 3 billion people in the world. How does that affect you? How does it affect you to know that in the year 2000, Bill Gates' financial wealth was equivalent to the combined financial wealth of the bottom 115 million people in America, who were essentially, in terms of their net worth, almost broke? How does that affect you? How does it affect you to run through the following statistics that don't have a human face? That because we don't have universal health care in this country, we don't have single payer, which is far more efficient and allows you free choice of doctor and hospital. This is essentially government insurance and private delivery of health care under a competitive framework. That 18,000 people a year in this country die because they can't afford health care, according to the Institute of Medicine of the National Academy of Sciences. Pretty conservative figure, which means hundreds of thousands get sick or don't get diagnosed in time every year. What does that do to you? What does that do to you? What does it do to you to know that 3,000 people died on 9/11, and that is essentially less than 3 weeks total of the number of Americans who died from workplace-related disease and trauma in the United States? Week after week after week, according to OSHA estimates. What does it say to you to know that over 200,000 people in this country died because of hospital and medical negligence, and because of side effects of drugs, and hospital-induced infections, which is a terrible epidemic? Centers for Disease Control estimates 200 to 250 people a day die from hospital-induced infections, and there aren't many antibiotics left that can deal with the resistance pattern. Now, what does it mean to you to learn 65,000 people, according to EPA, die from air pollution in this country? What does it mean to you that under the Clinton-Gore administration, sanctions, economic sanctions were imposed on the people of Iraq? Military sanctions is one thing. Economic sanctions that damage civilian life is a crime under international law. And a distinguished task force of physicians estimated 500,000 children in Iraq died as a result of those embargoes of critical material, including chlorine, which of course is critical to drinking water purity or microbial control. What does it do to you? What does it do to you to know that hundreds of thousands of students are being ripped off under the student loan rackets? Sally Mae, in particular, a basically fundamental example of government-guaranteed capitalism, where they can rip you off with abandon, with fine print contracts that even law schools don't analyze to protect their law students taking such loans. And if you don't pay and they can't collect, they can go to Uncle Sam for a guarantee, government-guaranteed capitalism. What does it say that universities and colleges, until very recently, were not alert to these deceptions and frauds that often tracked students decades after they graduated? They got into a debt spiral, which they couldn't get out of. And because they were in a debt spiral, their credit rating wasn't very good. And many of them couldn't get certain jobs as a result. And where were the universities to basically say, we're not going to take these freebies and these junkets and the financial aid offices from these student loan corporations? What does it do to you to know that 13 million children in this country go to sleep hungry every day in this country? What does it do to you to know that 45 million workers, 1/3 of the entire workforce, make under $10.50 an hour before deductions, many of them working full-time and with side jobs, and they don't have health insurance. What does it do to you to know that the GDP in this country is at least 20 times per capita productivity greater than 1900? In 1900, there was poverty. But when you have an economy that has increased its productivity per worker 20-fold, why is there any poverty in this country? What is the disconnect between the relentless increase in paper wealth and GDP and 80% of the workers in this country falling behind, where we have an economy almost double the size of 1970, and yet in inflation-adjusted terms, the peak wage in this country was in 1973. It still is the peak wage in this country in 1973, adjusted for inflation. Just barely, after all these years, maybe slightly surpassed. But with the home subprime mortgage, it doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon. What does it mean to you that the head of Walmart, with his rubber stamp board of directors, made $11,000 to $12,000 an hour, 8 hours a day last year, when he had a majority of the workers were making $6.5, $7.5, $8, $9, $9.50 an hour? Just think of that. Think of that. What does it mean to you that you're likely to go into the pattern all too often of prior Princeton graduates and have your exquisite talents trivialized because it pays well? Where you have exquisite talents, but you're not working on the major problems affecting the world. That's one reason our class in 1955 started Princeton Project 55. Because we didn't want Princeton students who could get 20 job offers from Wall Street to Houston. We didn't want them not to have an option to develop their civic skills on real serious problems of injustice in one city or community after another during the summertime or for one-year fellowships afterwards. And we started Project 55, and we're now placing over 100 students in internships and fellowships every year. We have an office in a nice house right off campus here for our headquarters. It was donated to us by Princeton fellows in Princeton 55 who went to Silicon Valley and made a lot of money in the class of 91 and 92. And they decided they were so grateful for the experience that we gave them that they were going to get a building for us. And there it is. Now, imagine if thousands of classes, 30 years out from graduation, did something like Project 55. How many opportunities there would be for you not to have your skills trivialized? How many opportunities there would be for you as students in Project 55 to work on global tuberculosis problems? That's one of the projects. How many opportunities there would be for you before the trajectory of your redundant, bureaucratic, whether corporate or public, routine lives kicked into place, that you could use your 20s and not waste your 20s, often getting over personal hang-ups that you should have taken care of when you were teenagers. They would use your 20s to break ground, because your 20s are the most creative decade of your life. You'll have more wisdom and judgment and experience later on. But it's in your 20s that you're gonna ask the impertinent questions. You're gonna pioneer. You're gonna see what level of courage you're gonna have to connect with your own professional skills.